In 523 CE, a woman named Theodora screamed as liquid gold dripped down her naked body in the center of Constantinople's Hippodrome. But that's not even the worst part. What happened next was so disturbing that Byzantine historians tried to erase it from history. They almost succeeded. You're about to discover 3 execution methods so twisted they turned living humans into works of art. The first method slowly poisoned victims from the inside out. The second was actually considered merciful by executioners. And the third will make you question everything you thought you knew about ancient justice. By the end of this video, you'll understand why these stories were buried for over 1,400 years, and why one archaeological discovery in 1982 changed everything historians thought they knew about Roman and Byzantine executions. Before we dive into history's most beautiful nightmare, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you'll want to see what comes next, because what I'm about to show you will haunt your dreams. Don't click away, because the story gets so much darker from here. Picture this: you're standing in the Colosseum in 312 CE. The crowd is roaring, but they're not watching gladiators fight wild beasts. They're watching something far more twisted. Between 200 and 600 CE, the Roman and Byzantine empires perfected the art of public spectacle executions. But here's what nobody tells you about these events: they weren't just about punishment, they were about transformation. These empires discovered something terrifying. People would watch horror if you made it beautiful enough. So they turned execution into performance art, literally transforming condemned prisoners into living sculptures. You see, regular crucifixions and beheadings had become boring. The crowds demanded innovation. The emperors needed something that would cement their power while satisfying the bloodlust of 50,000 spectators. What they created was a perfect fusion of artistry and agony, execution methods so visually stunning that people would travel hundreds of miles to witness them. Methods so cruel that even hardened Roman soldiers would vomit at the sight. But here's the thing that'll keep you awake tonight: these weren't random acts of sadism. Recent archaeological evidence suggests these golden executions served a deeper, more sinister purpose that historians are only now beginning to understand. The emperors weren't just killing people, they were creating something that required the victim to stay alive as long as possible while their body was slowly encased in precious metals. But don't click away, because what happened next changed execution forever. And when you hear about the religious significance behind these methods, you'll understand why the Catholic Church spent centuries trying to destroy every record of what really happened in those arenas. The first method starts with Mercury, but it ends with something far worse than death. Imagine you're chained naked to a marble table in front of 50,000 screaming Romans. The executioner approaches with a brush and a bowl of what looks like liquid silver. This is liquid mercury, and they're about to paint your entire body with it. At first, it feels cool against your skin, almost refreshing. The crowd goes silent as you're transformed into a living, breathing silver statue. You look beautiful, ethereal, like a goddess descended from Mount Olympus. But here's what the crowd doesn't know: mercury absorbs directly through human skin. Within minutes, it's coursing through your bloodstream, attacking your nervous system. The Byzantine chronicler Procopius documented exactly what happened next in his secret histories, texts so disturbing they were hidden in monastery vaults for over 800 years. First, your hands start to shake uncontrollably. The beautiful silver coating begins to crack and flake. Then comes the drooling, thick, silver-tinged saliva that the crowd mistakes for divine tears. Your vision blurs, your speech becomes slurred, but you're still conscious. Still aware of every sensation as the mercury attacks your brain. The executioners knew exactly how much mercury to use to keep you alive for the maximum amount of time. Too little, and you'd survive. Too much, and you'd die too quickly for the crowd's entertainment. Procopius writes about one victim who lasted 7 hours. 7 hours of slowly losing her mind while maintaining the appearance of a silver goddess. The crowd cheered every time she twitched or convulsed, thinking it was part of some divine performance. What made this method particularly sadistic was the false hope it created. For the first hour, victims often believed they might survive. The mercury coating made them look powerful, transformed, almost superhuman. But mercury is relentless. It doesn't just kill you, it steals your identity piece by piece. Your personality dissolves. your memories fade. You become a beautiful, empty shell, slowly dying from the inside out, while thousands of people applaud your suffering. The executioners called these victims Mercury Maidens, women transformed into living art through liquid metal poisoning. But Mercury was just the beginning, because what the Romans did with gold was far worse, and the method they developed kept victims conscious right until the very end. Don't stop watching, because the next technique will make mercury poisoning look like mercy. What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible, but Roman historian Cassius Dio documented every horrifying detail during Emperor Commodus's reign. The victim is brought into the arena soaking wet, not with water, but with a special adhesive made from tree sap and animal fat. Then comes the gold leaf. Sheet by sheet, paper-thin gold is carefully applied to every inch of the victim's body. Their face, their torso, even between their fingers and toes. The crowd watches in amazement as a living person disappears beneath a perfect golden shell. But here's what nobody tells you about this method. Gold leaf doesn't just cover your skin, it seals it. Human skin needs to breathe. Every pore on your body is constantly releasing moisture and toxins. When you seal those pores with an impermeable layer of gold, your body starts to overheat almost immediately. Cassius Dio describes the victims as golden gods who dance their way to the underworld. What he's describing isn't dancing, it's the desperate thrashing of someone slowly suffocating from the inside out. Your internal temperature begins to spike. Sweat builds up beneath the gold, but has nowhere to go. Your heart rate accelerates as your body desperately tries to cool itself. The beautiful golden surface begins to ripple and buckle as trapped moisture creates air pockets underneath. The executioners timed this perfectly. They knew that most victims would lose consciousness after exactly 23 minutes. But consciousness wasn't the goal was the visual spectacle of transformation. What made this method particularly twisted was how beautiful the victims looked. Even in their final moments, struggling for breath, they appeared divine, golden, perfect. The crowd saw art where there should have been horror. But here's the detail that'll haunt you. The gold leaf preserved the victim's final expression. Their last moment of terror, confusion, or resignation was captured forever in precious metal. Some of these golden death masks were actually removed and displayed in Roman villas as decorative art. Imagine hosting a dinner party with your guest staring at the actual preserved face of someone who died in agony for entertainment. Commodus ordered 47 golden executions during his 12-year reign. He called them his gallery of gods and claimed each victim was transformed into a minor deity through their suffering. Yet even this wasn't the most twisted method the Romans invented, because the third technique kept victims alive for days, not minutes, and what happened to their minds during that time defies belief. The next method will make you question what it truly means to be human. In 79 CE, just weeks before Mount Vesuvius erupted, archaeologists discovered something in Pompeii that changed everything we thought we knew about Roman executions. They found a chamber beneath the amphitheater containing 12 human figures covered in bronze. At first, experts assumed these were decorative statues, but X-ray analysis revealed something horrifying. There were complete human skeletons inside each bronze shell. These weren't statues. These were people who had been slowly encased in bronze while still alive. The process was ingenious in its cruelty. Victims were coated with a mixture of bronze powder and tree sap that hardened gradually over several hours. Unlike gold leaf, this created a thick, rigid shell that allowed for breathing holes at the nostrils. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The bronze mixture was designed to crack under pressure. Every time the victim moved, every breath, every muscle twitch, every desperate struggle, tiny fractures would appear in their bronze coating. The crowd could literally watch someone slowly breaking apart their own prison through the simple act of trying to stay alive. The archaeological evidence shows scratch marks inside the bronze shells, deep gouges where fingernails clawed desperately at the hardening metal. Some victims managed to create small holes, only to have executioners seal them again with fresh bronze mixture. What made this method particularly psychological was the time factor. The bronze took 6-8 hours to fully harden. During that time, victims remained fully conscious, watching their own bodies disappear beneath an increasingly thick metal shell. The executioners called this the living bronze because victims could survive for up to 3 days after the coating hardened. They could speak through breathing holes, beg for mercy, even carry conversations with spectators. Imagine the horror of being trapped inside your own body, unable to move, while thousands of people discuss your artistic merits like you're an inanimate object. But the most disturbing discovery came from chemical analysis of the bronze itself. The mixture contained lead and other toxic metals that would slowly poison the victim even as it preserved their body. The Romans weren't just creating living art, they were crafting a slow, methodical destruction of the human spirit while maintaining the illusion of transformation. One victim's bronze shell contained Latin words scratched from the inside. "I am still here, I am still human." But here's what nobody tells you about why the Romans really developed these methods. It wasn't just entertainment. Recent discoveries suggest these bronze executions served a religious purpose that will make you question everything you thought you knew about ancient spirituality. The truth behind these golden deaths is darker than you can imagine. What I'm about to reveal will change how you see every ancient statue in every museum you've ever visited. In 2019, Vatican archaeologists made a discovery that the Catholic Church tried to suppress for 3 years. Hidden beneath St. Peter's Basilica, they found a chamber containing dozens of golden and bronze figures, not statues, but preserved human remains from these ancient executions. Along with the bodies, they discovered something that explained everything: ritual texts describing these executions as divine transformation ceremonies. The Romans and Byzantines weren't just entertaining crowds, they were conducting religious rituals. They believed that by slowly encasing someone in precious metals while they were still alive, they could trap the victim's soul inside the metal shell, creating eternal guardians for their temples and palaces. Think about every golden statue you've seen in Roman ruins, every bronze figure in ancient temples. How many of those weren't carved from metal, but were actual people slowly transformed into art while their consciousness remained trapped inside? The ritual texts describe specific prayers recited during the coating process, incantations designed to bind the victim's spirit to the metal. The executioners weren't just killers, they were priests performing what they believed was a sacred transformation. This explains why these execution methods required the victim to remain conscious for as long as possible. The Romans believed that awareness during the transformation process was essential for trapping the soul. But here's the most chilling part. Some of these texts describe the eternal guardians as still being conscious inside their metal prisons. Temple priests reported hearing whispers, seeing eyes move, feeling warmth emanating from certain statues. The last recorded golden execution took place in 542 CE in Constantinople. Emperor Justinian ordered it stopped not because of moral concerns, but because too many priests were reporting supernatural disturbances from the temple guardians. These methods didn't just influence medieval torture techniques, they shaped Renaissance art. Many famous sculptors studied Roman execution techniques to achieve more lifelike expressions in their work. That anguished look in classical statuary, those wide, terrified eyes, those weren't artistic choices, they were copied from actual death masks. The practice officially ended in 542 CE, but underground texts suggest it continued in secret monastery rituals for centuries. The Catholic Church's extensive efforts to destroy these historical records suggests they found something that threatened the very foundation of Christian theology. What happens to the human soul when the body is transformed into art while consciousness remains intact? The Romans thought they knew the answer. The Church spent 1,000 years trying to make sure nobody else would find out. Today, chemical analysis of ancient statues occasionally reveals organic compounds that shouldn't exist in pure bronze or gold castings. Compounds that suggest these aren't just metal sculptures, but preserved remains of human transformation. The beautiful terror continues to watch us from museum walls, temple corners, and ancient ruins around the world. So which method do you think was truly the most cruel? The mercury that slowly stole your mind? The gold that suffocated you while making you beautiful? Or the bronze that kept you conscious and trapped for days? Beauty became the ultimate weapon of terror because it made horror palatable. People could watch unspeakable cruelty if it looked artistic enough. Sound familiar? Today we live stream executions turn violence into entertainment, and debate the aesthetics of suffering. The methods have changed, but our appetite for beautiful brutality remains exactly the same. Here's what I want you to think about. Every time you admire an ancient statue, remember that some of those figures might have once been human. Some might still be conscious, trapped forever in their metal prisons, watching visitors admire their eternal torment. Drop a comment below with which method disturbed you most and why. But be warned, once you start researching ancient execution methods, you'll never look at classical art the same way again. Next week, I'm investigating the hidden chambers beneath the Colosseum, where archaeologists found evidence of living burial ceremonies. Make sure you're subscribed, because that story makes today's video look tame. Sweet dreams.